Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Driveline Academy and Driveline Baseball are proud to present to you the Driveline Academy podcast, the world's most dangerous youth baseball podcast. We're back. I'm your host, Evan Morgan, Direct Youth Baseball at Driveline, and it's nice to be back. I hope everyone's late spring, early summer is going well. Sorry we didn't get a chance to do an episode for you last week. Your boy was sick. Things are crazy. Excuses are like elbows. Right, that's the PG way to say it. Everybody has one. But anyways, we're back. And because we're back, we're going to get into a pod. We are going to talk about a number of different things. We're going to talk about high school baseball. We're going to talk about 9-year-olds throwing 324 pitches in a single weekend. We are going to talk about coaching and team culture. And I guess we're just going to see where it goes from there. A-Rod also said some very dumb things this week that I would like to take the time to dig into, but I might just have to save that for another time. But before we address any of those things, long-time listeners, first-time listeners, last-time listeners know that we're going to get into a little bit of housekeeping. We'll start at axbat.com. Code DL20 will get you 20% off at Axe for your stick and ball sport enthusiast tools. What do we mean? Bats. It's axbat.com. Of course they sell bats, and you can get them for 20% off. 10% of that discount is going directly into our scholarship fund that we use to give kids the opportunity to do this thing, do the Driveline thing for less money or sometimes no money. So if you want to buy a new bat going into the summertime, you want to support the Driveline Academy initiative and the endeavors that we have, giving over probably somewhere north of $300,000 of scholarship money over the course of the last 5 years. And you want a good, high-performing, durable bat, go to axbat.com. Use code DL20. D as in Dominique, L as in Larry. Dominique Larry 20 will get you 20% off. Anybody remember when Dominique Wilkins and Larry Bird went head-to-head back in the day? I'm so old. I'm so close to death because these are the memories and the recollections that I have. Anyways, axbat.com, code DL20, Dominique Larry 20 will get you 20% off at Axe. The other thing I got for you is a something that's going to help you be a better coach, something that's going to help your child be able to get better context for the youth sport experience, and that starts with our friends Travis Snyder and Seth and Mike and the whole gang over there at 3A Athletics. Travis Snyder, former first-rounder, local legend in our Pacific Northwest area. Travis went through it as part of kind of his youth sport experience. I think Travis would be the first one to tell you that some of the stuff that he endured as a kid, some of the trauma that he went through, some of that was not helped by his youth sport experience, and some of that inevitably kind of landed on his doorstep when he got into pro ball. So we have a partnership as the Driveline Academy with 3A Athletics, having kids go through their players' journaling series. They have a whole coaching module. They've got a bunch of other new premium information that's all on kind of their premium portal, and you can get it for cheaper because you're listening to this pod. So 3A Athletics has a new premium content membership. It's an all-access pass to a powerful library of resources designed for parents, athletes, and coaches, of which that's our entire audience. You can gain instant access to in-depth video and audio workshops, downloadable and online parent guidebooks and athlete journals, and quick, impactful video shorts to help you navigate the ever-changing world of youth sports. It's $5 a month if you use the code, which is 3, as in the number 3, A as in alpha, M as in mega, D as in dynamite, 25. 3AMD25. We'll get that. Get all of those resources for you for $4.95 a month. They always talk about this. Oh, it's cheaper than a cup of coffee. Like, it literally is. It literally is. So for the cost of 1 cup of coffee a month, you're giving yourself as the parent or parent/coach, but also your athlete some of the tools that they are inevitably going to need to help them get through this experience. Like all of us have trauma of one sort or another that we go through. All of us need help via tools to navigate that stuff. Sometimes, man, you can't get out of your own way. You can't see the forest for the trees. And look, between Seth and Travis at 3A, you're talking about a guy who's worked with a ton of high-level athletes, and Seth in terms of his ability to help athletes understand how to make this stuff palatable and actionable and relevant. And also in Travis is an athlete who went through it and has all the incentive in the world to help kids understand how to do it better. So that's what they're doing over at 3A. They're just such a strong partner of ours for the Academy. We're so proud of the relationship that we have that I'm sure is going to continue to expand. And you can get access to that thing. Again, it's code 3AMD25. We'll get that monthly premium content membership for you down to $4.95, cheaper than a cup of coffee. All right. Housekeeping done. I feel like there's probably some stuff that I'm supposed to housekeep for you guys about stuff that we have going on in the Academy. Fun fact, you know that your player can just like hit home runs? That's just a thing that you can do. You can hit more home runs. You want to do that? Go by the Power Bat. It's just going to improve your bat speed. It's going to improve your swing mechanics. It's going to help you hit the ball harder. The harder you can hit the ball, the more likely the good stuff is going to happen. So you should probably check that out. What else do I got for you? We launched Driveline Academy camps. We're starting to see signups for those in Washington, in Florida, in Arizona. We're doing codes for those to give you guys a discount, and it's not like I actually just forgot to pull up those codes because I definitely didn't do that. Those discount codes for you guys to be able to get access to a week's worth of camp. It's a 2-hour camp. Each one of those camps is going to give you some hitting development stuff, some throwing development stuff, and some long-term athletic development curriculum stuff. It's the holistic approach to youth development. It's going to help your player perform better. It's just the way that this stuff works, and you can do it for cheaper. If you use code WACamp30 in Washington, FLCamp30 in Florida, AZCamp30 in Arizona. That'll give you 30% off the price of that 1-week camp. I think relative to the cost of lessons nowadays, being able to do a camp for basically like a lesson and a half, a week's worth of camp for a lesson and a half, I think your kid's going to find a ton of benefit there. I think you're going to see a child that goes through that camp and they're going to be super engaged about development because the way that we can kind of prevent information and progress through technology, you're going to be able to do some unique stuff like throw on the intended zone session, the intended zone setup that you just can't do anywhere else other than our building. I think it's just going to be, it's a really great product. Early feedback on it has been really good for the folks that have come in. Again, we're starting to see more signups coming. We'll release the August dates soon. So right now, if you want to try to get into a session before the end of July, I'd probably get on it because they're going a little bit fast. But again, you guys for listening to me blather on for X amount of time every single week. You can use FLCamp30, AZCamp30, WACamp30 to get 30% off because we appreciate you as our podcast listeners. We want to give something that's like a little bit of a cool benefit out to you guys specifically because those codes don't exist anywhere else. And hey, if you also want to bring a friend and give them that same code or bring a whole team and give the team the same code, that's fine. We'll do that too. Right now, it's all about, I think for us, just giving more kids an opportunity to see the benefit of doing the thing the way that we do it in this specifically game, data-driven, engagement-driven format that resonates with kids. Like it just does. So you can do that for cheaper using those codes, et cetera, et cetera. Part of the reason that we were running around somewhat like the proverbial chicken with the head cut off of recent memory is my son's high school baseball team, shout out to Shorewood High School, made a little bit of a run in the state tournament. And it was really, really cool to see that experience because, man, it's just, high school baseball is just such a unique environment. And like Jeremy and myself, we really try to spend a lot of time trying to make sure that our culture is the way that we want it to be. And we're going to come back to this culture thing in a second because I got a pretty cool compliment, but also kind of an accusation from a parent that I thought I would share with you guys. Anyways, point being that like Jeremy and I, we try to put a lot of time into the way that we develop the culture of our organization with things like our partnership with Positive Coaching Alliance, with things like our partnership with 3A Athletics, and the way that we train our coaches, and the expectation that we have about how they treat the kids in our program. And all of that stuff is designed to try to create a community where everybody's on the same page about what we're trying to do and why we're trying to do it. I think my son was highly, highly fortunate to be able to land in a high school program that's trying to do something similar to that. Because it isn't a foregone conclusion that your high school baseball experience is going to look like that. And I'm going to come back around to some of the reasons why that might not be the case. But I will say, getting a chance to have my son be on a team, led by a couple seniors who are driven definitively to try to get the most out of kind of, this kind of make hay while the sun shines mentality about their high school baseball careers, and like knowing that stuff was going to come to a close. It was a really, really cool experience. And, we got to, I guess, the round of 16? Yeah. We got to, I think, the round of 16. We ended up losing to a really good Ballard team, lost a 2-1 ball game. I mean, it's about as close as you can play it. And they're a really good team. They got a couple kids on that squad that can bang, and those kids produced, and and they did a great job. The thing that I will say, being able to have senior leaders on a high school team that really lead, man, it's like you're just finding gold in the river, like you're just panning for gold and you just find like a nugget as big as your fist. That's the impact that type of stuff can have. And my son definitely had a chance to kind of have that experience, both this last season and then this most current one. And the two names I will give you guys for kids that, if you want to pay attention to just kind of see how these kids' college baseball journeys go, there's two of them that I would watch. One of those is Jamison Connolly. The other one is Joey Facilla. Jamo and Joey, I couldn't ask, as a baseball guy, but also as a dad, not much more than I could ask for in terms of kids, older kids, seniors, showing younger kids what it looks like to lead in this really specific environment, in the community, right, of high school baseball. And again, high school baseball is like a very unique community in the sense that like you're playing, for the name on the building that you walk into. Like as a club ball program, hey, I suppose, Driveline's name is on our door, right? So we do want to kind of foster that same sense of things, but it's different in the sense that, high school is just high school. And it is a community hub, and it's a social hub, and, to be able to play for that community is a pretty special privilege. As a younger athlete, to watch a couple seniors who I would really say, embody what that is supposed to look like, it was a real special gift for my son to be able to come up under that. And they had other seniors that graduated this year, but I'm just talking about Joey and Jamo because they're the two that are going to go on and keep playing baseball. So Ray and Finn, I'm not forgetting you guys, and I am not discounting your leadership and your carrying the torch of that community in any way, shape, or form. I just dropped Jamo and Joey because they're the ones that they are going to go on and continue to play baseball. But for all of those kids, when the game wrapped last Saturday, when the game wrapped, and to see these boys walk off the field and know that it's over, man. It's over. Highly, highly emotional, and for every reason that you would assume it would be. A couple of these dads of these kids I've known for years. Jamo's dad, Steve and I coached together, 4 or 5 years ago. We've known each other in Little League for forever. I think one of the first clinics that I ran as the skill development coordinator in Little League, which is kind of a hilarious position, but I did my absolute best. I probably did too much. I think one of the first clinics that I ran as the skill dev guy for our little league, like an off-season training thing to try to get kids ready for the season. I will remember distinctly. Jameson and Danny, I think, were the last two kids in the gym because I was running it and Steve helped, so we were kind of closing down. And to see, I want to say that like J-Mo was playing catch with his dad, and Jameson is a couple years older than Danny, so he's throwing a little bit harder, and Danny's just watching him, and it's like you just kind of see the wheels turning, right? Like when you're in a little basketball gym and it's January, ball really pops the glove, and you get that big pop, and he's like, that's what I want to be like that when I'm older, And then to see these kids get a chance to like actually be on a baseball team for a couple of years, way down the line, and to see kind of that same effect, like senior leadership is just such a critical thing. And man, Joey and J-Mo, Finn and Ray, all of them displayed that in one way, shape, or form. I'll say this though, J-Mo is one of those kids who, from what I see from the outside of the dugout, perhaps a little bit more of a like, I'm going to show you how to lead by the way that I go about my work, which is a wonderful way to express leadership, because leadership doesn't necessarily have to be like boisterous and demanding, but it can emphasize like, this is the standard, this is how you should approach your work. This is the seriousness with which you should approach this task. This is the diligence with which you should go about preparing for it. Jameson did a wonderful job of that. And then Joey, man, I've seen a lot of youth baseball over the course of the last 15 years. Having a hard time I'm having a hard time thinking of kids who I've seen who, like, it's just like every fiber of their being, they want to win. Joey's at 80 grade at that. And that's special. I mean, like, and that's what you want to see in this game, right? And, we talk a lot on this show about what happens when there's a non-age appropriate focus on winning and all some of the downstream negative stuff that can happen. And the reason why companies like 3A Athletics and Travis Snyder exist, because some of us coaches can't help ourselves in the ends to which we will go to try to find a win, and the pressure that we will put on children to try to deliver a win, right? Like that is a thing that exists at the pre-high school level of baseball. And, you could listen to any one of hundreds of hours of content that we put out about that to know exactly how I feel about that. High school baseball, it's a different thing. High school baseball, specifically as a senior, when you know that like this is the last rodeo, it's important. And I think it is important for younger kids to be able to see how the finite end of the experience both informs and compels a need for performance in a very specific way. And, again, I'm not in this dugout. I don't coach the team. But what I saw with my eyes as a parent, as also a baseball guy, is just like, Joey was one of those where like damn near every action on a baseball field you could see from him, it revolved around how do we do our best and how do we set ourselves up to try to go win a ball game. Because the need is there, right? You're staring at the end of the runway. I only got so many games. I'm trying to get my money's worth, man. I don't want this experience to stop. And to see a kid kind of go about their craft and lead in that way was a really, really special experience. And like we didn't get to the semifinals, right? We didn't get to the finals. We got close. We got within like sniffing distance, like close enough. I mean, again, we lost a 2-1 ball game. We scratched 2 runs across. we got a chance to live another day, and we got close, but we didn't get over the mountaintop. And I think it was really a privilege and a special experience to see that whole story unfold. And look, I just have a profound amount of appreciation for the way that those two, the four young men actually, but those two in particular, kind of went about it. And like we talked a couple weeks ago in here about me coming to the realization like my trunk was empty, that like the worm had turned, and the journey had kind of taken a little bit of a shift wherein I don't have all my kids' gear in my bag because he now is gotten to the point where he can, take autonomy around getting to practice and getting to games and doing that type of stuff. Not to say that he and I did not spend, again, probably somewhere north of 12 hours in the car in the last 2 days driving around to the first 3 summer ball games that we had. But in the high school season, right, he's getting himself to practice. He's going to the game. He's coming home after the game, and like his gear is not in my trunk. Man, my trunk is empty. To be able to kind of see, I suppose, the thing that the wall that I'm going to walk into somewhere around 2 years from now when, high school baseball will end. Is there something after that? Like, I don't know. I don't know. I know that baseball is the thing that my son is the most passionate about of anything in his life. And I know that one aspect of that experience is going to end in less than 2 years. So, after that game when we lost, man, like I hugged a couple dads, like, we hugged it out. But it's interesting to kind of consider that, like, I'm headed to the same thing as a father, as a parent in 2 years. And certainly, I want to see, my son get a chance to play for as long as possible. And right now it looks like he wants to find a way to play, some version of college baseball and continue to work towards the crazy thing after that. But regardless of all that stuff, like, high school baseball will end in the same sense that like 18U summer ball, like it's going to end and we're going to be done, and you kind of have to move on to the next chapter. And to get close enough to that thing to see how everybody was working through it, both the kids and the parents, it was a really, really special experience, man. We just, this year's high school team, I think a really, really great group of kids, great community of parents, great coaches. It was just really, really special. And I'm acutely aware of how fortunate I should feel for that experience, because with more of our academy kids coming back from their seasons, you come to understand that, like, not everybody has the privilege and the luxury of having that type of experience where they can, like, sit here and, like, wax nostalgic about how positive it was. Because quite frankly, not all coaches are delivering on that type of promise and that type of experience to their kids. I know kids who got treated incredibly disrespectfully during their high school season. I know coaches who are having to deal with the downstream repercussions of what happens when you treat a kid like crap on the field, in the classroom, in incredibly shameful fashions. We got our first, so season ends on Saturday, Sunday off, Monday practice, Tuesday our first summer ball game. Pretty quick turnaround. And our Tuesday game was a ferry ride away. We get there, and my wife is talking to one of the moms, and one of our kids just went through it this year with his high school coach in a way that just it's not my story to share. They're not my details to tell, but I will say that, like, as a member of the cohort of baseball coaches broadly, it made me really sad, really embarrassed, and also very angry that one of the kids in our program was treated this way. And the mom says to my wife, she's like, Well, you know this is Devin's fault, right? She's like, what? Well, it's Devin's fault because we understand that there's a different way that this thing can go. And it was such a wonderful compliment, to kind of have a parent call it out and be like, part of the reason that we are so acutely upset about the way that our child was treated in the high school seat is because we've seen coaches for the academy do the other thing. Simultaneously, it makes me very, very proud about what we've done over here the last 5 years, and the value of the increasing amounts of gray in my beard at trying to execute on that task. But it also makes me very angry that there are still coaches out there who I guess just don't care enough to learn how to do it differently. Like I have a hard time. I have a hard time kind of framing it in any other way, because companies like 3A Athletics are out there. Companies like Positive Coaching Alliance are out there. People like Carol Dweck are out there. People talking about growth mindset, right? Like this is a thing. Like we know all these things now, and yet we don't have enough buy-in on an approach to training youth athletes that is emotionally and I suppose holistically informed by how do we support these kids, right? Like we just don't have enough. We don't have enough. And consequently, like we have these type of experiences, right? Like my buddy David Yeager, right, who's been on this podcast before, wrote the book From 10 to 25, The Science of, oh gosh, David, you're going to yell at me for forgetting the actual name. I remembered the name, it's just like the sub-name that I'm kind of forgetting, right? From 10 to 25. Is it actually From How to Speak to Young Adults? I don't think that's right. Anyways, From 10 to 25, David Yeager. It's on Amazon. You should go buy it. Point being that like this information is out there. We understand more about the levers and wheels that we need to turn to engage and develop kids to get the best performance. Like let's not frame all this stuff about positivity and engagement-driven approaches to training children as like a feel-good thing. Frame it the other way. It's going to help them perform better. First summer ball game, I saw approaches from kids that were so vastly different than what they expressed in high school, and some of that, to be honest, has to do with the athlete's inability to navigate the pressure and the oppressive style of communication and instruction that some coaches execute on. It inhibits their ability to perform. And I suppose that inevitably at the end of the day that is the athlete's responsibility to navigate. And I get that. But we're talking about children. We're talking about children in a way that they are treated by people in positions of power, and specifically people who have the power to decide whether you are in the lineup today or not. So these kids play tight and they play scared. And then it's almost like then it's just kind of like a foregone conclusion that then the kind of coach goes like, yeah, well, my decision to castigate that child was validated because of look at how they performed. It's like, no, dick. Look at how you inhibited that kid's ability to perform. So I'm watching some of these kids, they get to their first summer ball game, the approach in the box, totally different. The way that they operate on the bump, totally different. The way that they go out and try to make plays in the field, totally different because they're not playing scared. So when you consider the ecosystem, Jack and Jerry, I still see you guys. When you consider the ecosystem where kids are made to feel afraid of the consequence of failure, and then they don't perform the way that they are capable of, and then they get in a different environment and they just cut it loose And weirdly enough, the more fearlessly you play, the better your performance goes. We kind of sit here and scratch our heads and go like, gee, that's so weird. It's so odd that kid's so completely different from summer ball to high school ball. Is it really? Is it really? And to be honest, how convicted are these coaches that are like oppressive towards children? How convicted are they about performance? Because if they are convicted about extracting the maximum amount of performance out of these kids, and they would not get in their way. You wouldn't make them feel scared. You wouldn't make them feel tight. You would encourage them to compete fearlessly, without fear of consequence. And in doing so, you would accelerate the ability of those kids to unlock the maximal amount of performance for your team as you possibly could. But you do the other thing. And you pull a kid during an AB because they missed a sign. I don't understand. I don't understand how you think that that's the right way to teach. I don't understand how you think that's the right way to instruct. And I certainly don't understand how that is anywhere, shape, or form close to the way that you think is the right way to behave. And you know, like let's just stay here for a second, right? Because I saw something the other day. This is some podcast by some people who purport themselves to be very, very big, very big, and there was like this very declarative statement. Oh my gosh, let me see if I can find it. This is going to be aggravating if I can't find it. Let me just have to pull up my screenshots because I have too much on my phone. I saw this thing the other day on a competing athletic related podcast with which I will not name. They had a hot take. Coaches are starting to get too soft on athletes, and it could be affecting their growth and performance. Sometimes tough coaching is exactly what an athlete needs to lock in to become their best. So which is it? Like which is it? Is it that coaches are being too soft? Or is that coaches are not kind of working to help kids lock in? And that by being less soft on kids, they're more likely to be locked in? I mean, many roads to Rome and everything, but like if the problem that you're trying to solve is you need athletes to be locked in, then you need them to be engaged. You need them to be engaged in both the task and the outcome. You can get there without being a dick. Like that's literally a thing that you could do. Coach. Connect them to the value of the experience. Connect them to the gold at the end of the hill if they simply perform as fearlessly as they can. That's how they get locked in. They don't get locked in by you berating children and being a hardo as an adult about youth sport outcomes. Like, we're just going to, oh, well, I guess that's the only way that I can do that. I have to be red-assed around these kids to get them to lock in. Brother, no, that's not the only way. You are constructing a false paradigm wherein, oh, well, I just have to be this way otherwise. That ain't it, man. That ain't it. And it's incredibly disappointing to suggest that that is a way that you think is actually going to get you the result that you want, right? Like there was this other thing. I'm not a gentle sports mom. If you're wearing a car payment and walking around with a bag full of vacation, you better not be here just for fun. That was another one. Different subject. This is just like sports mom Instagram, and by God. I've said before often that I think we need more women coaching in sports, period, because most of the time I would hedge a bet to say that a female coach would be more likely to live in both worlds. I'm holding my athletes accountable, I know my stuff, but I can also be appropriately emotionally sensitive when the time comes. I don't even think that that's anything about the state of women. I think it has more to do with the fact that I think men as a whole sometimes we're not the best about navigating some of that type of stuff. And I say that as a person who probably expresses some amount of those flaws. You better not be here just for fun. You're wearing a car payment around your neck. You got a vacation in your bag. Yeah, no, for sure. Let's definitely double down on the financial ramifications of paid youth sports and hope that that's going to help our kids perform their best. That's definitely going to work out the way that we want. When I'm going to put that out there for likes, 38,000 people. We know how Instagram works, right? We understand how this works. Wherein if I engage with content in my network, it's more likely to be shown to other people in my network. Guess what, dummy? Your children have Instagram accounts. They're in your network. You engage with horse crap like this, the odds that then gets shoved down your kid's throat, pretty high. Am I the only one who's done the thing where I'm like looking at my timeline and I'll see something come across and I'll see that like one of my children liked it, and then we might have to have a question, we might have to have a conversation about that? Am I the only one that's had that experience? If one of my kids likes a meme that is perhaps what I might think is a little too adult for their palate, and it comes across my timeline and it says one of my kids' accounts liked it, okay, fine. It's a conversation. If I engage with this, I'm not a gentle sports mom. I mean, not a mom, but if you're wearing a car payment and walking around with a bag full of vacation, you better not be here just for fun. Just approach this from a performance standpoint. Am I doing anything that is accelerating my athlete's ability to perform to their best? Which is what? It's not scared. It's flow state. How do you define flow state? Lack of thought, present in the moment. Is fearing the consequence of failure and whether my parents feel like their investment in my youth sport experience, does that sound like a thought that I want in my head if I want to be in a state of flow with the action and the activity? Is that what that sounds like? No. That sounds like George Brett. George Brett. You can read this out. Joe Pasansky has a fabulous profile of George Brett. He did it as part of his Baseball 100 book. That stuff used to be up at The Athletic. You might be able to find it on Joe's blog. Spends a great deal of time unpacking the personal relationship between George Brett and his father. Suffice it to say, I think it would be a fair summation to make that George Brett played scared for a majority of his career, and scared of whether or not he was getting his father's approval. Now, it's George Brett. It's a Hall of Famer. Charlie Lau notwithstanding, he's a Hall of Famer. The thing that I would question is how many George Bretts did we lose along the way because a child, instead of dealing with that type of fear of failure from a parent and using that in some way, shape, or form as fuel, which I would offer is like a fairly uncommon outcome, how many kids did we lose to the game that just said, this doesn't make me feel good. I don't want to do this. I'm not a gentle sports mom. Said as like a badge of honor. Ugh, it's cringe. It's absolute cringe. Like, as a 35 to 45 to 50-year-old person, That's the message you want to send? I realize that maybe I'm just like word vomiting about parenting here, so apologies. Let's spin this back in a little bit more of a baseball specific sense, shall we? Because I could just go on about this for eons. Did another This Week in Pitch Counts. Did it in a little bit of a different format for everybody that's kind of been paying attention to the initiative. This is unfortunately the worst one that I've seen so far. Let me try to explain the story, and I think we'll just end on this because we'll keep it a little bit brief this week. There was a 9-year-old who threw 324 pitches in a weekend. Let me just run that back to you just to make sure we're all on the same page. 9-year-old pitching 324 pitches over the course of a weekend. I'm not doing this as like an I told you so, but if you look back at when we started doing this Week in Pitch Counts thing, both on the podcast and then on my socials, one of the things I noted when we started this thing 7 weeks ago was like, hey, it's March. It's early April. These things are only going to get worse. This is what getting worse looks like. 324 for a 9. And, we can talk about all of the edge case stuff here, right? It's a 9-year-old child. The amount of force they're able to produce on their bodies is relatively low. If there's anybody who's going to have a 324 pitch count, I can't believe I'm trying to talk myself into this. If there's anybody that should be doing that, be glad that it's a 9 and not a 14. Be glad that it's a 9 and not a 15. The story gets better, though. So Nate is a guy who has been, in his own state, amplifying this message that we've been on about pitch count abuse and the downstream ramifications of injury to children. Created a Facebook group. He's been talking about this stuff, kind of what he's seeing at the local level. And quite frankly, we need 49 more guys like that. We need this happening in every state. I don't know if you guys want me to just create a Facebook group for all this stuff. I mean, I'm old, so I suppose I should be a Facebook guy. Not really much of a Facebook guy, but I guess maybe if that's I don't know. Maybe that's the way that we need to continue to confront this thing. I'm not sure. Anyways, so Nate breaks it up. And he's like, look, this is unacceptable. Reaches out to the tournament provider. You guys need to do something different with the rules. And the tournament provider was like, nah, nope, we're good. From what I understand, they kicked him out of the other tournaments he was signed up for with them. He banned them from participating in future tournaments, and got just about as petty labelle as you could be with the whole initiative. And had a long-winded response about why it wasn't their responsibility to deal with this problem, and I'll find it. We're just going to read a little bit. This was a message that the tournament provider sent to my guy Nate. Just because you believe you have some all-inclusive Facebook page that correctly tallies every pitch thrown by every youth baseball player in said state, it is not realistic for us to manage pitch counts for teams playing in our tournaments. Do tell. Perfect Game does it. They make money, you make money. Both of you can squeeze some amount of profit out of there to pay a teenager to track this information. You could spend, I don't know, let's call it a half hour, to tell coaches how to report pitch counts. Who does this information go to? Who collects it? Where does the centralized repository of this information? It's a solvable problem, guys. Little League International, fun fact, entire volunteer-driven environment. Mandatory MLB PitchMart compliance. Well, how do they do that? They don't have any profit to squeeze. They just find a guy. But you, tournament provider, go, it's not realistic for us to manage it. Okay. Furthermore, our tournaments regularly draw teams from many states and even Canada, making such an expectation even more realistic. My guy, no one is asking you to time travel. You don't need to, like Indiana Jones, do like the map animation as you fly across the world. No one's asking you for that. What we're asking you for is a set of sane and responsible rules that take place in your events, hosted on fields that you book, with coaches that are giving you money and umpires that you hire. That's the ask. Whether they come from Canada, Iceland, Zimbabwe, who cares? The moon. Your event, your fields, your umpires, coaches that pay you money. The issue is not tracking pitch counts during a tournament. Oh? Is it now? It is a usage prior to each tournament that is not possible to track. Okay, all right. Interesting point. You're wrong, but you are in a little bit right in that all of it matters, right? The preceding event, the preceding workload is very informative about the effect that the current workload has on the athlete. This is the difference between the acute workload, single day, and the chronic workload that's been established over 7 or 28-day period of time prior to the acute. So kind of good point, but like you also don't just get to like walk away from any responsibility here, my guy. That is a wild conclusion to make. To expect us or any tournament provider, you mean like the ones that actually are tracking this stuff? To expect us or any tournament provider to incorporate a pitcher's recent usage and rest requirements into some sort of tournament pitch count is beyond unreasonable. My guy, that's MLB PitchMart. It exists. And it has been for almost a decade, and it's been used for almost a decade over a population of players that are coached, administered, and governed by an entire volunteer-driven labor force. You make money. You can pay people. So you can miss me with this, it's unreasonable. Furthermore, for you to be for some reason lashing out at us or any tournament provider concerning potential overuse of a youth pitcher is entirely misguided. The health and well-being of a child is first and foremost the responsibility of the parent. Okay. Secondarily, if that child participates in any activity that may place them at risk, the parent would need to have a discussion with the coach or supervisor of that activity regarding their expectations for the management of their child while under the supervision of a coach supervisor in question. The mental gymnastics involved with denying any responsibility here, very impressive. Very impressive. For context, you have rules about helmets being required by batters, yes? Well, why? You just told me the parent would need to have a discussion with the coach or supervisor of that activity regarding their expectations for the management of their child while under the supervision of the coach supervisor in question. Why do you have rules about helmets? Why don't you let the coach decide? Literally saw a clip that some current D1 softball players watching, oh my gosh, it was UCLA and somebody in the championship from like 1980 or 83 or whatever. And those college softball players at that time, nobody had a helmet on. Like, nobody. No mask, no helmet, no nothing. Pretty wild. Like, very, very wild. Why do you have rules about helmets, though? Why don't you let the coach decide? Right? What prevents you? The same logic in place here applies in both senses. Why do you have rules about bats? Let the coach decide. If I, as the coach, decide to equip my team with a bunch of rolled bats that are way hotter than they should be by rule, It's not your fault. It's not your responsibility. You just laid it out here. It's the coach's responsibility. Oh, but wait, you do have rules about helmets. You do have rules about bats. So you want to tell me that relative to pitch count, my hands are tied. I can't. It's an unreasonable ask. I can't do that. But when it comes to helmets, when it comes to bats, well, then that's where you want to get involved. Okay? This is logical inconsistency. These two things don't square. Any overuse of a youth pitcher anywhere falls solely on the parent and coach. For some reason, you believe we should be the judge, jury for parents and coaches when it comes to health and safety of the child. That is not our place. They are our customer, and we are providing them a service. If they choose to put the health and safety of their child at risk, that falls 100% on them. Look, we've talked often about why coaches and parents are not going to be the solution to this issue systemically. To review, parents are incentivized because they are paying a coach or an organization for their child to play to not get in the way, to not bring up these type of issues, because the moment that you do, the validity of your investment, or basically just call it like the sunk cost, the money you've already invested, now becomes into question, right? Am I really, as a parent, incentivized to ask a coach about something like this that effectively kind of almost is like a playing time issue? What are the likelihood that that goes sideways? And in going sideways, that the coach sours on the parent, and in turn sours on the child. Well, the $2,000, $3,000, $7,000 you've got committed to that team for that season, you're not getting a refund. Like, you think that the coach is going to pitch your kid 324 over a weekend and then be like, oh yeah, you want to leave? Here's 50% of your money back. That behavior does not go together. So parents, because of the nature of club and select baseball, where you are giving money to a coach, you're giving money to an organization, implicitly you are less likely to confront that coach about this type of stuff, because it is going to affect your child negatively. And on the coach's end, if the value prop that you deliver to parents revolves around winning, and winning is the thing that parents universally understand, it's the safest outcome. It's the outcome that, absent everything else, we would prefer for our children most of the time, because it means we don't have to deal with the downstream ramifications of how I deal with the context that kid doesn't have about what losing means. A coach is incentivized to win the ball game. And in youth baseball, you have less kids that are capable and competitive of pitching than in any other level. So the ones that can are disproportionately more likely to be overused, because you don't have enough competitive options. So all of the ecosystem would suggest that somebody needs to step up and create some rules and some structure that this type of negative incentive can't penetrate. Something like a helmet rule. Something like a bat rule. We treat other aspects of youth baseball as safety-related issues. We've created rule structure around that. You could even make the argument that having an age cutoff that prevents biologically advanced 14-year-olds competing from like biologically immature 12s is also a safety-related rule, right? The output of those 14-year-olds is such that if you allow them to compete against a population of kids who are very much behind the curve of them, the odds that they can compete, first of all, are diminished, and the odds that diminished competitiveness may result in a safety issue, because a 12-year-old on the bump can't get out of the way of a low liner heading at their head because they've never seen a ball hit before that hard. It's a safety-related rule. We have other safety-related rules, but this pitch count one, man, that's like we go to the ends of the flippin' earth to deny any type of responsibility, and it's nuts. It's absolutely nuts. So I did the video on Tuesday after Memorial Day to kind of talk about this, and I'm like, how do I frame this, right? If I just talk about this from like an it bleeds, it leads type of perspective, hey, 324 over a weekend, that's the biggest number we've had. That's not the way that I want to think about this thing. What I want to think about this thing is like structure and systems that are compelling us to allow this behavior. Threw it into ChatGPT. Give me an example of another instance in American history where we've had this little regard for rules and regulations around safety issues for children. You know the first thing it came up with? Kids being working in factories in like the late 19th and early 20th century. Like, that's a wonderful parallel. We're in such a great place. Fantastic. The thing I'll end with is this. The conversations that I am fortunate enough to be involved in at the highest levels of the game, if you understand the three-letter organization that I'm talking with, are continuing. We are working and continuing to figure out how we can start to implement systemic solutions to this thing. That action is still going. I will reiterate that this is just going to be the number one thing that I am going to work to solve until I am taking a dirt nap. It is a passion project for me that I can't let go because I think it is harming the future viability of our sport. I love this game very deeply. I cannot allow this to be unchecked because the solution is simply to create structure and system that works like helmets. It works like bats. It's a safety issue. But in the current term, while this work takes place, and it's complex and it's daunting because of all the fractal nature of this entire thing, right? You've got big organizations like Little League, Pony, Ripken, Babe. You have tournament providers, PG, U-Trip, Bullpen, Firecracker. And then you have regional tournament providers like these guys. It's a random one of our 50 states or a regional tournament provider. And they're saying, it ain't on me. It's not my fault. Talk to your coach. Talk to your parents. But it's definitely not my fault. We'll mandate bats. We'll have rules around bats. But that's different. We'll have rules around helmets. But that's different. We'll have rules around ages and age-appropriate participation. But that's different. Oh, we can't touch this pitch count thing. BS. There is no reason that any tournament provider in this country cannot start running MLB PitchSmart right now. There's nothing stopping you. You might even disagree with MLB PitchSmart. Hey, I think the structure of this thing is wrong. I don't have any science, I don't have any data, but my anecdotal experience suggests X. It should be different. Do that. Create your own thing. But do something. You don't get to sit there and take money to have children participate in a sport that they love and simultaneously expose them to levels of risk that are physically dangerous and go, not me. It's not my problem. You are abdicating a moral and an ethical responsibility to keep children safe, and you are doing it because it's convenient. It's not impossible. It's not ponderous. It doesn't cost a ton of money. You just don't want to do it. And that's why you choose stasis. That's why you choose ignorance. That's why you hide behind, oh, this is too complex for us to solve. BS. You have an obligation because there are children involved. So when everybody talks about how gross travel and select baseball is, and they talk about how it's ruining kids' lives, you don't think that this is part of it? You don't think this is part of it? It is. So, dear audience member, if you know somebody that's run tournaments, ask them what their pitch count rules are. Just ask them. And if they say that they don't have any, then ask them why. Because there are rules out there right now. You could create your own. We've talked about how inopportune and how ineffective any innings-related pitch counts rules are. But if that's the simple thing, then just do that. Because the signal that we are getting over and over and over and over is that the same events that you conduct and the same events that you receive money from are the same ones that incentivize coaches to overuse kids. All of that stuff is happening on your watch. Do something. Create your own thing. I don't care. But you can't simultaneously say that we have safety-related rules or regulations for participation in some aspects, but neglect the thing that is staring you right at the face. It's staring you right in the face, and you go, it ain't on me. Last thing I'll give you. On one of our state playoff games, the next to final one that we did end up pulling out a dub on. It's before the first game. My kid was DHing, I think, which inevitably kind of puts a lot of pressure on you to try to perform in the box because you can't affect the game in any other fashion. And I felt my anxiety starting to ramp up. And I'm getting a little bit stressy about, I hope this really goes well because he needs it, the team needs it, Joey, J-Mo, Ray, Finn, all these seniors, they need it. And I had to just kind of stop myself and go, what a privilege it is to be in this place. What a privilege. We're doing the investment math, right? Oh, my kid's walking around with, a vacation in their bag and a house payment around their neck for whatever. Do the investment math, right? Kid's been playing ball since he was 3 or 4, organized or whatever. Started swinging a bat when he could barely walk, but been doing this for a while. And I know enough to know that it's not a foregone conclusion that he would want to continue. He chooses it. It's a gift, man. The ability to see your children pursue something that they truly love and that they're passionate about, and to have that passion not be diminished, it's a gift. It is an absolute gift. And I guess, I don't know, man, I guess I really hope that if there's any through line about what I've tried to do at Driveline over the course of these last 7 years, it's that everything, whether that's our camps product or our snapshots or the power bat or the Youth Underload Smash bat or the player development kits with plyos and mini hitting plyos and the Skills at Scale book, Youth Baseball Dev Cert, our teams, that's the through line. All of this stuff. Yeah, it revolves around player development. Sure. But the point is to just keep a kid going. And man, when I was a younger parent, I didn't really realize how close that was. But now, having had these experiences and opportunities to see the truth of it, when I'm seeing men that I hold in high regard crying at the end of baseball games because, the journey's over. It's just over. I realize what a privilege it is to know that my son is still doing everything he can to be the best that he can in this game because of him. It's not about me, because he wants it. And like I said, man, like everything that I've tried to do here in these last 7 years, if I've done anything right, I would just hope that the message gets out there that like that's the point. The point of all this tools, the point of all this tech, like yeah, it's ostensibly it's how to get better. But why? Like why? Who cares? What's the point? The point is that I met the love of my life in a bar. We fell in love. We got married. We made people. And through nature and nurture, both of those kids have had very specific passions and things that they really wanted to pursue. And at times, that was often baseball. And for me, I think my version of being a good parent is to try to help my kids keep that fire going for as long as they want. And I know it. I also know it's going to change. I know that there's an end to the runway. I know that the story ends. I know that. I mean, shoot, for the amount of careers that I've had, at 48, I know that. I know that this life kind of goes in seasons, and I know that it's going to change. And all I'm trying to do here is put out information and put out tools to help other parents help their kids just get the most that they can, man. Get the most that you can out of it. And if that means you play baseball until the age of like 12 and 13 and it's just the thing you do and that's cool, like that's fine. You can still love baseball for the rest of your life because of the things that kind of were imparted on you as part of that experience. If that means playing through high school and then being done, like that's cool. I mean, you did a thing that a lot of kids don't do because a lot of kids quit around the age of 12 or 13. You got that much more out of it. And those experiences in a high school dugout, trying to compete in a game that matters in your community, that stuff is going to positively impart something on you that's going to carry with you for the rest of your life. Well, what if you become a space alien, right? You get to be an astronaut. I'm going to extend this a little bit. What if you get to be an astronaut, right? You get to be one of those 5% of high school baseball players who goes on to play college baseball. And you get a chance to even sniff that thing, much less do it for 3, 4, 5 years or whatever, how long your eligibility goes. You're an astronaut. Because 95% of the kids in high school don't go on to play college. You're one of that small little cohort, and that thing that you've earned should positively impart something on the rest of your life that confirms if I want something really bad, I can work for it, and I can do the thing, and I can develop myself to go get it. You get to be a space alien, right? You get to play professional baseball. You're one of the 0.00262% of people that gets to that place. The game's still going to end. Like, the game's still going to end. The fact that you got there should be a signal that no matter where your passions take you next, you can earn your way there. You can become the thing that you want to be. I feel like I'm getting a little bit esoteric, so I'm just going to wrap this thing up. But like that's the point, man. That's the point. And to be frank, that's the point and why I'm kind of railing about this pitch count thing over and over and over, because I see this unchecked risk that's doing damage to the way that our game is perceived by parents. And if parents perceive that like this isn't safe for them, you know how that goes. We have retention issues in our sport already. The growth of our sport at the youth level is predicated on a new crop of kids showing up every single year. Well, guess what? That's not guaranteed. Parents can make different choices. And heck, we're probably looking at a generation of parents that are coming on our doorstep in the next, 5 to 10 years, who grew up with incredibly toxic youth sport experiences. What are they going to choose for their kids? We have to confront these risks, because if we don't, we are looking at an existential threat to the lifeblood of our sport. I love baseball a lot. I think it offers a lot of individual benefits that can kind of inform the rest of your life. I want to see that benefit extended upon as many people as possible because I love the game and I love what it's done for me. And I was a crappy baseball player. I mean, yeah, sure. Yeah, I was a crappy baseball player. It wasn't that good. It still means a lot to me today. It still informs the way that I view the world, and I think in a hopefully positive fashion. I want to see more kids be able to get that benefit. That's why this stuff matters to me. Okay. More structured program next week. I got a bunch of screenshots of content stuff that I wanted to get into, but I just had to kind of get off my chest, like the high school wrap up, moving into summer ball. We got a lot of baseball and a lot in a very short amount of time. If you happen to be listening to this and you're in the state of Washington, tryouts for our Washington Academy teams, the link is going to be going out next week. We're doing 3 tryout dates. So if you really want, if you want the full beans, man, you want the whole expression of what Driveline can do for their development if you're your youth baseball player, the simple thing is just like you have to be on a team. However, if you're in a community that you like, you got coaches that you like, you can still do the Driveline. That's what Driveline Academy Flex is for. We got all the stuff. I don't want to turn this into a sales pitch at the end, but like we got a lot of options. Anyways, that's all I got for you. It's nice to be back. I've missed you guys. I did. It's nice to do this thing and just talking to myself in a room with a bunch of lights on me like I'm interrogating myself. I am Devin Morgan. I am Down by Law. This is the Driveline Academy podcast. I'll catch you next time. Thanks. Bye.